Somebody put a drink on. You're good to go.
Okay, so we are back in open session in 1902. Next up on the agenda is our election of school board officers. Every July, we vote for a board chair and vice chair. We do not have a vice chair. So at this point, I'll open up discussion for nominations for board chair, and let's start with board chair.
I nominate Christine to continue leading us. She's a great leader.
Second. I was gonna get suggest myself.
Right? Thank you for your confidence in me. I appreciate that. Are there any other nominations though? All right, so is there a motion for election of board chair?
I'll make the motion to elect Christine as our chair.
All right, motion. Jamie seconds. We'll signify all in favor by raising hands and saying yes. All in favor?
Yes.
Noes? Motion passes 5-0. Let's talk about nominations for vice chair. Good question. The vice chair is responsible for leading meetings if the board chair is not available. They are responsible for taking anything that the chair is in conflict of, the vice chair would take over that. And they're a good sounding board, and it's a good partnership together to make, working with the superintendent and then advising the board as a whole. And then you're not in a public meeting if you have more than 3 people type of situation.
Being new, I've appreciated being a patron on the other side of the table and listening to the amount of research and knowledge that Soren brings to the table and takes serious in his decisions and his approach. So
So I'm hearing you're nominating Soren for
Yeah.
vice chair. Okay. Other nominations? All right, is there a motion to approve, or is there a motion on the table? Entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we elect Soren Rounds as vice chair of the board.
Right,
I'll second that.
seconds, we'll signify all in favor, we'll vote with our hands, so all in favor of yes.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Soren.
He can.
You can.
Oh my
All right, so just informational up next, we have a school board, we have 2 trainings next week. 2 school board trainings, both on the 17th and the 18th. As new board members come in, and for existing board members, it's always helpful to have additional training and get everybody on the same page and ask new questions, new people, we get to discuss new things. So we have that July 17th and 18th from 5 to 8 p.m. Those are work sessions for the board, which means that the public is included and they are welcome to be here. There's no feature and comment. However, during that time, it is really a work session for the board to work through things that they have questions with their with the education from OSBA.
And I will be late on Monday, probably.
Okay, we'll chat and see what if there's some evidence we can go through ahead of time.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be the last training. So next up is approval of minutes from the June 8th meeting.
I've read them, so I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion to approve and a second in favor of yes, approving.
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor? So 5-0 passes unanimously. Bond update. Mr. Skiggy.
There's something you need to turn my job. Yeah.
Is that who I am?
That doesn't work. Take it.
I really would. That's right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We have the superintendent, new board members. I think everybody except for perhaps Russ is familiar with what has been going on. So we've got a monthly report that we prepared that you folks have seen. That should be a part of your packet, including the budget information. And so what we do is just touch on the highlights here, but we want to answer any questions that you have. And of course, stop us if you have something as we go along. So in our report, we've got information on the 3 existing projects, the electrical upgrade, which the panel room is a separate part of, and the HVAC upgrade. So far, CB Construction, the general contractor, continues to struggle with schedule. The HVAC upgrade was originally supposed to start in May. And then it was supposed to start at the end after the school was out in the middle of June, and they still haven't started. They say they have the equipment, it's in the shop, but their subcontractor hasn't had the labor to come out and mobilize. They were supposed to start with electrical. And then they said, no, they wanted to start with HVAC contractor instead. So the latest information is that they are supposed to start next week. But we're very concerned about the schedule on this, because at this point, they're going to have a tough time getting this work done before school starts. And so yesterday we put them on notice that the gym needs to be free for use mid-August. And the school, the classrooms and the admin areas, they're going to start being used at the end of August, the 21st. And so if they're not done by that time, they will have to do work after hours or on weekends at their cost. So at this point, they're the ones that are going to incur any issues with this. The panel room, the small room back there continues to have delays. They were supposed to be finished with it by now. They're just putting siding. And to complicate things, CB has a new project manager. The old one was replaced. This is the 3rd project manager in the last year that we know of that's been a part of it. So that doesn't help things. We know that they're struggling because they've got overruns on the projects and they continue to struggle with their subcontractors. So at the end of the day, they're just having challenges all the way around with it. Financially, it doesn't hurt us in that we have a guaranteed maximum price. And even performance wise, until that switchgear that you folks we've been talking about, until that final piece of the electrical upgrade comes in next May and is installed, none of these systems are going to be active. So we don't want it to take that long, but at this point, it's not hurting anything. The HVAC system isn't going to go live anyway until that time. So they're the ones that are really incurring the loss. Other than we want to make sure there's no impact to the school's operations, which is why we put them on notice about that. And we tried to do it early enough so that they can motivate their subcontractors, whoever needs to do that. So
I have 2 questions on that.
please.
So are they able to do the work without a subcontractor? Can they come in and do it?
Not the HVAC
Okay,
or the electrical work
Okay.
Associated with it. They have a few things associated with some cutting and patching. But
Okay.
no, they really can't.
they can.
The thing is, speaking to Ryan just right before, he's familiar with this too. The 2 subcontractors that they have for HVAC and electrical, they're good local subcontractors. Seen them before, used them before. They've done fine work. So personally, I think it's CB's management. It's the problem.
So then that kind of leads to my second question. Are you able to take over that relationship within our agreements?
Yeah, you have an existing contract with them. In order to terminate that contract, it would terminate those subcontracts too.
I was just wondering if your time management skills could be used in that area, setting them up, but
We haven't gone so far as to call CB Hanson and Sandy Ann, but we have had Derek, who's the president of CB, talk to them and set up conference calls. We discussed it. They have different reasons. Personally, I believe that they're all busy. Contractors are very busy this time of year in school work. And so I think that CB is just getting low priority. Anyway, that's what's going on with the existing projects. Is there anything I missed on the existing ones?
for the VOC.
Yeah, so the good news is the vocational building That's the part that we're excited about. And you'll see in your report, the latest plan is near the end of the report. And so we've had good staff participation. New superintendent was able to participate in the last meeting. Good comments. So we're just wrapping up schematic design, which is about 50% through design. They'll wrap that up and getting off to a third-party cost estimator at the end of next week. And then we'll have that cost estimate and that final plan for review with decision makers that we hope will be you folks and members of the bond oversight committee, key staff. We'd like to do that the second week of August. And ideally before the next board meeting, with the goal of reviewing that. And it's just a cost estimate. It's not the guaranteed price for the project. But we'd like to review that in the plan and then get approval to move ahead with final design. That's our goal at that point. Is we'll see where the numbers come in. We expect them to be within budget, hopefully lower, so we can target other things. And then move forward. In that case, talking to the new architect, their goal would be to complete final design for bidding by the end of November. Then we'd like to go out for bidding. We'd like to actually start construction early next year so that construction could be done next summer. It's gonna be tight.
And we have the extra pressure, that's why we're pushing this so hard, if we've got to spend a certain amount for the awesome grant.
That's right.
And we have a couple of ways that we can do things in advance. We can work around some if we have to, but it would be better if we could just get a bid and get the building, the material, because we're looking at a metal building. Get that material bought and reach that minimum early in the year. We have until March, April to spend 1.8, and we're not there yet.
Yeah, we won't do that with the HVAC and electrical upgrades. We'll have to have some of the spending on vacation project by that time.
What was the timeline on that again? Do we need to have it spent by?
The awesome grant, we have to reach that amount by March, April, right at the beginning of April.
That's how we receive our matching funds, correct?
That's the matching.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Can that be spent on like pre-purchased materials for the building, or does that have to be actively being built?
The whole project can be applied to that, but design is just not anywhere near that
Right.
cost.
No,
so-
but to your point, something like the middle building materials.
Right.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good chunk of change that we should be, we believe. From the calculations that we run, we're gonna be a couple $100,000 short. In the March, April, based on the existing project. So that would be our opportunity.
Okay.
And that would be the first thing they'd want to do is get that metal building procured to lock in the price. So.
I personally want to make sure there's no conflict between the POC as well.
Board members are allowed to be on the oversight committee.
As a board member, because I pulled the secretary role of the POC, but I need to resign from that role.
Let me check into that. I'm not sure about that.
If you do, there's not gonna be very many people on the BOC. They need BOC.
I will still
members.
continue to come and be a part of the process. If I can't be in the secretary seat.
Anyway, we'll coordinate with you on hopefully arranging a time for the key decision makers where we could do that outside of the next board. Any other questions?
Was the metal building a change was it gonna be like a different building at?
There was an original design that the former architect had prepared, but the budget for it came in at about 2.5
Right,
million.
it was high. I know.
Yeah, and it was a wood frame building. But it was 2-story and it had some very expensive equipment as a part of it, so. Yeah, so this is a much more simplified design. The other problem, and you may have heard this already, Russ, is that the staff wasn't involved in that former design. And so now we've been able to do that to the point to where the staff, teachers and others have a good way in. It's a simplified building, but it's much more in line with what they want. Other questions?
Sounds like with these delays, at this point, there's not really any specific things we can do to encourage those people on.
What we're continuing to do is put them on notice document by email. And that way, if there is something that happens in the future, we've got that full history. So that if there needs to be action against them, all that is back up to it. Unfortunately, that's not, other than firing them and hiring somebody else, which again, at this point, we really don't recommend. I think it's gonna be, that would cause more pain for the district. There really isn't much else we can do. They're saying the right things. This new project manager is supposedly going to try to fix it. You know, Derek says the new project manager is going to fix it. We'll see.
One of the issues that we've had is, this particular company doesn't look like they have a lot of experience with commercial projects. And so some of the software and things like that have been a challenge, and so one of the things that we're doing with this new project manager is we're going to train manager them on, like, this is how it's done with commercial, this is how it's done with public works, and see if we can't proactively get things that are a little faster, at least from my side, you know, from the business side, when we're talking about things like that are just, I think the last payout was stalled 6 months. So hopefully we can get them trained for how things are done and get them a bit faster. Please bring that on.
I appreciate your efforts.
We'll keep pushing. The budget is also in there, plus the budget details and what's been committed, what's been spent. You can see that we have about $2 million that's not committed. That includes the owner's contingency, that really is the earmark for the location of building plus other things. So by this time next month, when we have that cost estimate for the location, the simplified location building, we hope to have an indication of where we'll be.
Does anybody have any questions over the budget document? I know this is a new one for some of us, so I just want to make sure if there are any, they are the best to answer our questions.
Is there a fail-safe time frame if they don't perform? I mean, I know you say switching is not a good option, but waiting 4 months and switching is a worse option. Is there a metric in place that,
Yeah, I've had to do this before a couple of times, only a couple, thankfully, 40 years. And every time it's extremely painful. It's like a divorce. Nobody really wins. And so it has to get really painful for that to happen. So we continue to watch it. If they bought it, we could stop and go out, but at this point, we know that it would, it's hard to say about the delays since they're having trouble getting started. But at this point, we know it cost us more. And so we're trying to avoid that.
Okay.
So we'll get to continue to watch it, to let you folks know what's going on. There may come a point in time if they just can't perform that we can move ahead in a different direction.
The one place where it will change direction is when the municipal building is ready. We don't have to use them, and if they aren't performing about that, then we're not going to recommend using them.
That's an excellent point. At this point, up until several months ago, it was assumed that they would be the contractor for the location of it. With their performance the last several months, that any of us have confidence. They're struggling with these small projects. I don't know that we have confidence they can handle something, which isn't even, that's not even a big challenging project, but it would, at this point, it seems like it would be a big break for us. So
that would be really probably the
that's not our decision, that's yours, but we'll bring that to you at the right time.
okay, thank you.
And if there are other questions after, please don't wait for the board meetings. You can always email us too.
Before you step away, we previously, when we had Brian on board, he was a kind of a conduit in between, you know, contractors, and we had one board member that was nominated to kind of be that person, and they could stand in the meetings or things like that. So we may want to consider that if they work, you know, with CVs or not CVs, sorry, with Gaggy, so that we're not having to schedule a whole meeting to try to get everybody timeframes, and then that person would report back to the court. So we might want to consider that in a future meeting. So you guys are agreeable to that also.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Reach out and I'll happily attend in the interim if you need someone.
Great.
Yeah, it's these fans are loud.
Okay, we'll speak up. We have loud voices. We're good. That's not gonna help Terry.
And we encourage, because the NCD is not,
Sorry.
the biggest is a very big
Oh.
group right now, and they're not meeting because they've been sitting in on the design meetings. It's been, we've had great participation, but we're not having meetings. We definitely encourage you guys asking us questions, sending us, if you get feedback from the public, bring it our way and we can provide an official answer. Sarah has been doing a great job from what I can see of getting articles out so that the community is updated. But sometimes there's questions and complaints and stuff that aren't, they're not best handled in an article. They're best answered by somebody talking to somebody one-on-one. Please just forward that information to us.
Outstanding. Thank you guys so
Great.
much.
Thank you.
All right, our next agenda item is our superintendent report. So welcome to Miss Kristen Murad, and she will give us her superintendent report today.
Thank you, everybody. I'm excited to be in Elsie. I'm excited to work with the community. This is my 8th day on the job, and it's been 8 days filled with lots and lots of things. So a couple of things that last week I worked with office staff. We've identified some summer priorities. We are working on currently updated job descriptions for all staff positions. We're working on calendars and contracts for the upcoming year. We're working on handbooks for staff, students, substitutes, and volunteers, as well as applications, and we're going to bring those to the board in April for approval. And ultimately what those handbooks are going to reflect is our district policies and what is expected of pretty much anybody who is within our school, behaviors, just behaviors, what our policy states. There are certain things that we do have to put out there, such as our sexual harassment policy. All the employees have to know about that. They all have to know about discrimination. We have to put parents on notice about how we grade, expectations about attendance, things like that. And so one of the major things that Laura's been working on this week is the board spent all spring updating policies, and now we're putting them on the website. So they should be our new policies that Elsie adopted should be on the website by the end of July, completely updated. So that's a big push that we did. And it's important because anything that really governs our school district comes from those policies. So everybody needs to have access to them. We're also really working to have a defined and we have a lot of budget procedures already. They're not necessarily defined in a written manner. So how we look at payroll. What are processes to ask for absences? And this is more for employees. How do you, if you have a question about something on your payroll, how do you go about that? How do we pay people? How do we get their insurance, things like that? And then the next thing we're really looking at is really defining in writing how we're spending our money. How do we ask, how do we do POs for if we need materials for the shop or the science, or what is the proper procedure versus here's a credit card, let's go. And so kudos to former Superintendent Gallagher and Lorraine. They really started that process. We're just finishing up and trying to really define it. So there's not a lot of, well, this is how we used to do it. It's now written. One of the struggles that I've had the past 8 days is I ask a lot of questions and there's been like, where can I find this in written somewhere? Well, it's not really written. And that's really not good for a transition. And so we are really pushing to get a lot of these stuff done before school starts, so we can have training with our staff about what is expected of them, with our students about what is expected of them, with our substitutes and with our volunteers. And so that is a huge push. And Laura and Roxy have been working really, really hard to do that. I believe it was in March, it could have been in April. The school board approved a contract through the Lincoln ESD, a contract for a lot of different services, including a business manager. The business manager services through the Lincoln ESD will cease to exist as of the 20th of this month. They let us out of that part of that contract. So later, you will see there is a contract for another LLC for business managers through Donald Staley. to become LC business manager to help us through this part. What I will tell you about Don is Don has over 40 years of school business manager experience. He has worked for many districts, small districts to big districts. And he has the experience to continue the work that Sean and Lorraine have done. And in the hopes that we can get it to a point where we can go out and find somebody to be our business manager, but with training, and he can help train them. Our budget is still really hard to read, and there's a lot of wonky things. And so we really need to have experience to come in. School budget is just not, let's balance a checkbook. You know, we dealt with it actually today doing IDEA, money budgeting and different things like that. And so my hope is that with Dawn coming in, we can get a lot of those things worked out, set policies, procedures about how we do things, and then we can start looking and start training somebody to come in. It's a tough go for school finance. Business managers are a dime a dozen. There's 2 schools that I know of that are looking for business managers as of yesterday. And I talked to one of them and they really don't know what they're going to do. They're probably going to have to contract to the ESD, and because their business manager literally quit last Friday. And so it's not a good time. So we're going to really work on getting that up and running. We've been working on the transition. There's a lot more to the transition of our school funds than I thought there was. I am now, I've spent the past week actually on the phone with PERS and insurance and our bank and trying to get things in my name, even from Mr. Gallagher, which sometimes is like, I actually had to go get an electronic virtual key that I didn't even know existed to even do that transition. So we're hoping that transition, well, not hoping, that transition is working on, it will go well, and we're going to move on so we can get our budget set. Well, it's already set, but get our budget really working in a way that it works well and within the laws of Oregon. Kings Valley Charter School informed us as of July 1st, they will no longer go through us for transportation costs. So we're currently working on how much, getting them an invoice to how much they owe us, because I believe they owe us some money for 5 buses, some payroll costs, some overage costs from the past that Lorraine found last year. And so we're going to work on that to get that up and running and get paid. We'll have to speak with our lawyers because contracts will have to be signed and different things like that. I want you guys as the board to really know what sort of professional development staff is doing. This summer, Roxy Smallwood actually attended an HR summit to learn about the HR laws of Oregon, which is going to be great for us. There was stuff she came back and went, did you know? And I was like, I did, but I'm glad now you do. So she went to that. Eric, Heather, Bart, and myself, we're going to the COSA Summer Conference in Eugene in August to talk really about the new laws. There's been a lot of laws actually passed in the last legislative session, specifically around special education and removal of children from schools and how long they have to be in school. There's been a lot of lawsuits lately about lack of instructional time. That's not even for children in special education. We're looking at other. And so we're going to go and learn about that more. But what I'm going to tell you is the state is really leaning towards we don't kick kids out of school. We want them in school. And if we want kids to have a shortened day or, they're over a certain amount of days, there has to be certain things that we hit by the law. And it's in response to some actual lawsuits that have been filed against districts in around the state of Oregon and OE. And so we're going to go learn about those types of things and make sure that we are in compliance. Because it does affect in some aspects as charter schools, when we bring students from other districts, it does affect how we have to decide instructional hours. Things like that. And then later in the actionable items, you'll see there's actually a contract for our food service through Corvallis. And we are going to take on a little bit more of the administrative piece of our food service. So we're sending Bart and Roxy to a child nutritional training, August 16th in Bend for them to start learning, how to properly run this program so we can get fully reimbursed. And so those are some of the trainings we're gonna do. September 14th, 15th and 16th, Cycle Oregon is coming through Alcee. This is actually a pretty big deal. It's, we did this, when I was teaching in Bonanza 15 years ago, and it was one of the coolest things we've ever seen. And so it actually is going to be a fundraiser for some of our sports teams. So the 14th, they're gonna ask, some of our teams, specifically the football team, the boys basketball team, to set up tents. They're estimating between, I want to say 600 and 750 bicycle riders in Alcee. When I talked to Samantha Petter, who is actually spearheading the Alcee part of it, the average age was 62. And the youngest was 7, and the oldest, she said they told her at this point was like 85. And so they're gonna come and camp on our football field. The setup is gonna be like, I believe the setup will be $1,200. They will pay for our football team and boys basketball team to set up the camps. Then we're gonna have dinner service and breakfast service, which I believe will be the girls basketball team and volleyball teams. It'll be $1,200 for dinners, or $1,100 for dinner service and $1,100 for breakfast service. And then it's a takedown by our football teams and boys basketball teams, and that'll be another $1,200. So it's a really good fundraiser. On the night of the 15th, when the cyclists are here, they're actually doing a live band, inviting the community to come in. They're going to have kind of a adult area over in the library. And they really want the community to come in and be a part of this program. So Samantha, I told her I would throw it out there because we're going to need lots of volunteers to help set up, put down, serve. They said it was about 40 for each thing to do we need. So Samantha's going to start putting out there for some volunteers to help with all that, to help our kids fundraise. And that's a pretty good fundraiser, $1,200 for 4 hours. That's not bad. And then Learn at Home Oregon. Laura has noticed as you all know, Learn at Home was now, the board decided to do a K-3 school. We have been enrolling, and Laura came to me and said, Krista, we have had a lot of 4th and 5th grade families ask, why aren't we doing 4th and 5th grade? Because they have like a kindergartner and a 4th grade. And so Heather and Laura got together with me, and we're going to kind of do a survey to see if there's interest in 4th and 5th grade. And if we can have interest and it monetarily makes sense, I'll bring it back to the board to see if we're willing to look at adding those grades to Learn at Home. Part of the Learn at Home enrollment, actually not part, all of the Learn at Home enrollment, it's very important for our budget. As you all know, our MOE is also 1.5, 1.6. And so really we have to have that to help maintain our MOE and even try to lower it. So we're going to do some work over that the next couple of weeks and see what we can find. And then hopefully we can get enough to add those 2 grade levels. We're not going to really look at, we're going to for sure get a teacher at 4th and for sure get a teacher at 5th. We're going to look at numbers. If there's only 10 4th graders and 10 5th graders, we might get 1 teacher per blended, but it would still help with some of the monetary pieces of that school and help us meet some obligations we have. So that, I think, is really all I have for my report. Sorry, I know it's hot. I tried to talk fast.
Can you give one clear? I think
Yes.
you said April for handbooks. Did you mean August?
August, I'm sorry.
I just noticed that. I
No,
was like,
yeah.
oh, you're gonna train next month. But-
Yeah, no, it's gonna be in August, and handbooks for for all the handbooks have to have board approval. So we are busting our butts to get them to you all because we want them in place for the beginning of school. I don't want to be like, oh, and here's a new handbook in July. We made up some rules. No. And what I will tell you, all the handbooks will literally say at the beginning, because sometimes we miss stuff, that district policy always supersedes what the handbook says. So if there's a discrepancy, which there could be, we always go by district policy. District policy always supersedes. So we are going to bust our buns to get you those handbooks for you all to read.
All right. Next up is our financial report, which I do believe you are handling as well this evening, correct?
I do, yeah. Lorraine was unable to make it. So, the state passed the budget at the end of June. And we budgeted off of 9.9 because that's kind of what we heard, 9.9 billion. It actually passed at 10.2 billion. So that gives Alcy about $208,000. Please note, that does not mean we're gonna spend $8,000. We are kind of still in a spot that we need to be very fiscally conservative and we need to still save where we can. There's a memo attached, according to Lori, there's a memo attached to the board packet. I don't know exactly. I think it's under the June month. The other piece is that the ending fund balance is still subject to change because we're still getting invoices for last year. And so it can, we don't think it's gonna change by a lot, but there will be some change. So.
Any questions on enrollment numbers? The documents that we normally get from the business manager. Things like that.
So right now we're at enrolled for the next school year, 211.
We have not enrolled for next school year, so that is just the end of what last school year was.
Okay.
So when will we see these numbers change?
Pardon?
When will we see numbers that reflect this next upcoming school years?
I would say, Laura, would you say in September when we start getting going, we'll see kind of where we're at?
Yeah, definitely. I'll usually give the business manager the enrollment as of the first day of school.
Mhm.
And then also again on September 1st and then October.
So for those, because Laura doesn't have a microphone, just to answer that question, it'll be the first day of school enrollment numbers are given and then September 1st. And then, did you say monthly afterwards?
Yeah.
And then monthly afterwards. Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
Does the state base our budget on last year's enrollment or the current year enrollment?
The state bases our budget, so in December, we kind of give them an estimate, and that's what we based our budget off of, the ADMW estimate. And then they adjust throughout, so actually it's kind of based off 2 years ago, but we adjust, there's a formula that I
Mhm.
wish I could explain to you much better than that, so it'll be adjusted throughout the year.
All right. Seeing no discussion items this evening. Patron comments. Laura, do we have any? I don't have any blue slips in front of me. Just pausing for a second there. All right, let's move into action items. Our first action. So I want to explain this really quick on how we action and discuss for all of our new members. And a reminder for us, because we forget sometimes too. We'll entertain a motion. Once the motion is entertained and seconded, then discussion can occur, and then either an addendum to a motion or a vote can take place from there. So that's how we'll work through our action items. And yeah, so first up is an entertainment for a motion on action item A, payment of June bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills for June.
All right, so Jeff motions, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Russ seconds, is there any discussion?
No.
All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? Yes,
Yes.
Are we doing it that way now?
as long as we can get like a yes, a loud yes and a hand
Yes.
up.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, motion passes 5-0 unanimously. Annual organization resolution, that is your third attachment. This annual organization resolution 24.0, just as an explanation, discusses our legal assignment for our, our administrative officer, who we use for our, our bank, who our signers are. It does discuss the night of a board meeting and the time. It discusses who our representative is for reporters, things like that. So it's an important document. If you haven't had a second to read over it, please do, and then we'll entertain a motion.
When you're ready, I'll make the motion to approve the organization resolution 24.01.
All right, Deb makes a motion to approve 2401. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jamie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I skipped discussion. I'm sorry, you guys. Is there any discussion?
No,
Okay. 5-0 unanimously passes. Next is the transfer appropriation resolution for 2402, which is the fourth document that you have. I'm gonna look, maybe with Nero to talk through that just really quick as an overview. Is there,
So, just because we have the IDEA, which is for our special education funds. What an MOE says is that out of your general fund each year, you have to spend the same amount or more funds on your special education program. And Lorraine, when we did the budget, did a pretty good estimation of what it was, but after we got everything settled, she was about $24,000 short. So what this resolution says is we're just transferring from the general fund to IDEA funds to ensure that we are hitting MOE $24,000. That's all that is.
thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the transfer of the AORMOE.
Right, Deb motions,
I'll second that motion.
Russ seconds. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Great. All in favor? Yes.
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 All right, motion passes 5-0. We have the option here under 14D, we can approve resignations as one in one batch unless there's a conflict of interest or a declared conflict. Any declared conflicts? Okay, is there a motion for to approve resignations?
I'll make the motion to approve resignations.
All right, there's motions to approve resignations. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconds, any discussion?
I am curious, for my own knowledge, if there is a policy or process in place for exit interviews.
Not that I know. That could be something we look at for the next time, but not that I know.
Question? Any other discussion?
No.
I will just say thank you to Ms. Faraday, Mr. Frick, and Ms. Jones for the service to the Alsea School District and wish them the best of luck in their next endeavors. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes. There is new hires. Is there any conflict with any of the listed new hires?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to hire the new hires?
I'll make a motion to, or you got it, Jamie?
Battle.
I'll make a motion to approve the new hire.
All
I'll
right,
second that motion.
all right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, in favor, yes?
Yeah.
Motion passes 5-0. There's a new contract for Donald Staley for a business manager service. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to hire Don Staley as a business manager contract.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
So I have a little bit of
Yeah.
question here. So how does this contrast in what we're currently spending with the county and that termination?
It's about $100,000 cheaper.
Okay. And so the slated time frame. This is for a year, not to exceed the 90,000. But the slated time frame to try to find a permanent replacement is,
Our hope is that we could put something out if I feel that the district is in a good financial spot, that we can bring somebody in. Which I'm hoping that we will start looking and with the idea that we would train that person doing it day to day.
Sure.
but I don't know because we're still working on cleaning up stuff. So we're gonna, my hope is that we do this for the year at least and get some stuff cleaned up and going. And he could work with the giggies to really make sure bonds are going through and things like that. And then if I feel and I come to the board and you feel like, hey, I think we can go out and start looking for somebody to come in. That's where we would need that. Because I will tell you, as a district the size of Alsea, maybe only needs a 0.75.
Right.
Really and truthfully, but from past issues that we've had to have a 1.0 because budget laws weren't followed. And so we have been trying to get people to come in and clean up. So
Okay, so it says in here that it can be terminated according to his contract, but I haven't seen the contract. So if
Oh, sorry,
for
it's the
some,
attachments at the bottom.
is-
Sorry, it's the very
Mhm.
first document. It's underneath the action items.
okay.
Right here.
Oh,
Yes,
there, the
contract.
first one. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, well, I have that. I mean, I printed that out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say, it says it can only be like segregated according to contract, but it doesn't really say what that is. Like if there's a minimum we have to pay if we decide to go.
so what I will tell you, there's not a minimum. He is going to charge us per hour. So
Okay.
let's say next week, he's like, I'm not doing it anymore. We're just gonna pay whatever he
Okay.
did and bump it. We're
So
not,
there's not like a guaranteed minimum to him if.
The way every there's not to exceed.
yeah, we're not gonna exceed $90,000, but there's no minimum.
Okay.
If he's done. If
So
he says I'm done, then we're gonna pay what he
Yeah.
charges us for his work and then we're gonna.
So that's the guarantee that we're either gonna pay him
So you're
65 an hour or
$90,000
$90,000.
annual savings.
Yes,
And just for the record, I have independently heard that this guy is one of the best in Oregon for cleaning things up.
I will tell you, I worked with him in my prior school district for cleaning things up. And he cleaned them up and
That's great.
it worked well.
That's great. Just as a new board member, a concerned community member about the last couple of years, just want to make sure we have a parachute.
Yeah, he is one of the best and my former boss worked with him in Sutherland because there was an issue in Sutherland. And he cleaned up Sutherland, he's worked in Fulton, he's worked in Canby, in Clackamas and for ESD, so.
Great.
I would say he is a good fit for us right now.
All right.
Are we allowed to do our own research?
You can, yep. He was not able to make the board meeting tonight, but he will definitely come down. He's gonna try to come down and be in district once a week. He's training Roxy. We're gonna work with Laura on things and so you're more than welcome to. And if he's down, Jamie, you want me to tell you? Come meet him. Sounds great. Perfect.
And the plan is for him to begin immediately.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
All right. So there's a motion and a second. We've gone through discussion. Let's go ahead and vote. Those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0 unanimously. Next is item G, an action based on executive session.
I would like to make a motion to delegate authority to the board chair to draft closing communications to the parties pursuant to discussion and executive session.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
noes, abstains.
Yes.
Deb, yes, abstain.
I'm
So
abstaining.
motion passes 4-0, 1 abstain. Bynum Moses MOU, that is your 5th document for review. They're always interesting to read. So is there a motion for this MOU between Bynum Moses and Alsea School District?
I'll move to approve the memorandum of understanding between Rhino Moses and Elsie School District.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
So this is the shed that's gonna be located on site, correct? Where are we at in that process of building? I heard that it's like construct, I haven't seen it, but is it constructed but not finished, or are we starting construction?
It is, I believe, already a pre-constructed building that they're
Okay.
gonna come. They haven't done it yet because of the fencing project, but as soon as they're done with the fence, which will be about 2 weeks, they're gonna come and kind of get that project through, is what Sarah and I spoke about yesterday.
Okay,
Can you give us a simple breakdown of what's different between this and the previous one? So there's something different about the ownership. I've read the one before and I don't.
I can't because I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't realize there was one before.
I don't think we had an MOU before. There was a grant proposal paperwork, correct? I think on past motion and acceptance of this, what we wanted was that we didn't want the funds to come out of the general funds, was what the board was asking. So is that different today in how I'm reading this?
As I'm reading it, it sounds like the Vina Moses Center is going to pay for all of it, is how I'm.
I'm seeing here that, we're securing funding for costs of up to 3,000. Committed by Vina Moses.
Yeah, I thought there was something where they were paying part of it and we had some sort of grant. It was already.
I know there was something in the budget specifically in regards to that with our student, was it the Student Success Act?
So it says, so the way I'm reading this is it's funds above 15,000. Moses has committed 15,000, funds above 15,000 are out of the family liaison program.
I think that was.
Right, but that was covered by a grant, not by
The student
general
success.
fund. Yes, that's correct.
so
Okay,
the pre-constructed building that was purchased in Albany is here,
I think it needs to be purchased in,
so it's not an existing.
not yet.
Not yet.
And the,
Isn't that what you just said? No, it was an
I
existing.
think it's, well, I think that it's not here yet. I think
It's
they're
not.
going to bring it.
Sarah Little.
we asked Sarah to.
Yeah, because I,
clarification.
yes,
Thank
I was
you.
just emailing her.
Yes, Sarah, if you're able to unmute, clarification would be great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So yes, Vinamosis has, Eileen from Vinamosis as well as Naomi have been working tirelessly on grants to get this going. Eileen or Vinamosis has put down half on the shop, and it has it's being built now and just basically waiting for delivery. Once it's delivered, the remainder will be paid. And then there will be some smaller grants that we're going for things like clothing racks and things such as that. But yeah, everything is covered. So it's almost done. I can't tell you how happy I am. Were there
Is
any
this-
other questions?
Is this gonna be purely like a free donation, or is there,
Yes.
is it like a Goodwill where we're gonna make money off of this, or it's just purely a donation?
This is, I'm
Sorry.
not sure if you're, it's a wonderful question, Russ. So there is a nonprofit in Corvallis that I highly recommend everybody just going and checking out. It's called Vinamosis. It's on Garfield. And it is a free thrift store. So basically it doesn't matter if, if you're needing maybe some work pants or some work shoes, or maybe you've just had a baby and you need some clothing or a new, blankets or those types of items, those would be available for free to families in our district. And as you know, inflation's crazy, right, is absolutely out of control right now. So I think this is going to be a big help to the community.
And Sarah, if I understand correctly, this brings brings their like donated materials here so that our community members don't necessarily have to make it to Corvallis if they don't have funds for gas and transportation and things like that, correct?
Absolutely. And this goes along with the services that we're already providing. So when people are in need of referrals or laundry cards, those are things that can be provided. It's a good thing.
I do have a question about something about Vita Moses has committed to paying toward the site preparation, et cetera. Is that who's doing the site prep? Is that the shed
So-
company?
So there's not a lot of site prep to be done, which is wonderful. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Miss Mosier's old classroom. But previously there had been a greenhouse just to, I got to think of my directions, north of her classroom. And it was a gravel pad, and that gravel pad is still there. So this is just gonna be on skids and sliding right into that spot. And Keenan will be doing a lot of the help with that with the ADA and prepping.
How will it be staffed?
It's gonna be staffed through, I'm hoping to get students in there. So it'll be staffed by myself, students and volunteers. And it will not be open all day long. It won't be open to the public. It's going to be more open to, our district families as needed by appointment. And then there will be, I'm hoping once I have it more figured out, that we'll have some set hours possibly on Fridays when school is not in session, that others can come in.
Good question. Any other discussion or questions? All right, there is a motion to approve and a second. Those in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. And then our Corvallis food service. Thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you all.
Is this, I think it's item 6.
And 7.
6 and 7, thank you.
So this is just our annual MOU. The difference this year is that we're gonna pick up some more of the administrative pieces in-house. So what was happening last year is we would count, send it to Corvallis, who then sent in monthly counts to ODE. We would get the reimbursement money and Corvallis would take 75% of it for their funds. And so this year they're like, it seems like there's a lot of steps. And so we are going to do the monthly counts to ODE and ensure that our kitchen is running smooth. We will get, we will send all those into ODE. We will get the reimbursement money. Corvallis is another pricing proposal. They broke down that they believe, well, not believe, they said their total cost for labor and delivery costs to LC was $37,216.10 for the entire year. So if you break that out over 10 months, their monthly cost for LC is $3,721.61. So they're charging us $3,700 a month for that on top of the cost of food. That is new this year. They usually said, like I said, whatever your reimbursement we got from the state, we just give them 75%. And they're like, we're not really quite sure where the 75% came from. So they wanted more of a dedicated, like, this is what your cost is in different pieces like that. And so what this will allow us to do is really do more of an audit of our food service program, knowing how much each meal costs, not only with food, but with labor and delivery costs. So we can see how much we get reimbursed. I'm not sure, as you all know, food service is not a profitable program for any school district. And so I'm not sure how much money, I think we were above 80,000 last year that we had to transfer out of the general fund to pay for food service. So one of our goals this year is that we would like to do an analyzation of how much each meal costs, so we can kind of get those costs back down under control. And so this kind of helps us do that, but still Corvallis is still our conduit for getting food, which at a cheaper price, because they're not only doing, they're a bigger district, so they're buying more bulk. But this will allow us to kind of keep our costs under control and be more in control of our program and know what we need to do to be more effective.
Thank you for that overview. Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the food services proposal.
All right, rest questions, there a second?
A second.
There's a second, is there any discussion?
I guess I have one concern. Last year, the kids noticed a difference in the food quality. And at some point, there was a change made to like the menu from the prior year, or maybe it was mid-year. I don't pay that much attention to the little kids because they complain a lot about a lot of things. So I'm just curious, with this agreement, do we have any say in what type of food we're getting? Is it all up to Corvallis or what's?
We don't necessarily do, so part of the agreement with them is they create the menus based on, you know, the requirements of the national school program, lunch program. And so we're kind of limited because we don't really have the power to have our own kitchen. And so our hope is really, once we get some of that stuff up, we can take more control over the program and maybe have more say over the menu. At this point, we're kind of at the mercy of Corvallis to do anything, but that's our hope.
Can I ask, so my understanding last year compared to the year prior, they gave us a list of foods and we built our own menu.
I am not sure that works. My conversation with Kathy, who's the head of their food service, and Olivia, who's their CFO, is that they would give us the menu and they would order the food based on it. So
Okay,
we could get the most cost effective price. Because currently, as you all know, food is like sky. And so, as you know, and so really the cost is the $3,700 a month for their administrative, plus the real-time costs of their food, of the food they buy from us.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. Like if Eric can say, oh, here's the food, I make my own menu. Based on what I understand in my conversation yesterday is that they say, here's the menu to try to, and everybody, Corvallis, Wilmeth and us do that menu to help try to buy so much in bulk that.
Yeah. so my understanding is we just was given a list of foods and we built our own menu. So maybe check into that.
I don't, when I talked to them yesterday, it was not that. It was like, we give you the menu and then we give you the food.
Okay,
Is what my understanding.
okay.
Do we have any control over managing the waste? Are we allowed to collect the waste and say use it for compost in our horticulture department, or
We
are we
could,
restricted?
no, the only restriction we have is when we do a reimbursable meal, we have to follow strict guidelines. And I'm gonna give you an example. In my previous district, I always said we needed to do a Thanksgiving dinner. So we did Thanksgiving, we did turkeys and everything, and they still planned it. And you have to submit your recipes with how many cups of whatever you do every week. Because we did that Thanksgiving dinner, we were a fourth a cup short of vegetables for the week, and we actually lost $1,000 reimbursement because we did not fit. So we have to just make sure we give them the amount. But there's nothing to say if you don't want the lettuce, you can't put it in a bucket over here and go feed, go feed the chickens. We just have to provide it. Some people do, like, for example, milk is a part of a reimbursable meal. Some kids don't really like milk. So we used to do share bin. So if you have to take it, get counted, and then you just share it. So you put it in the share bin. So we try to really negate some of that waste. Some of it's just really hard because some of the kids, but there's nothing to say, once you count it as a reimbursable meal and you make sure they have everything on there.
I just think it would be beneficial to not allow too much waste on the door.
Yep, I would agree.
I understand in the past, there was some sort of scheduled disconnect with the Corvallis School District and ours. Is that?
There is, so we are, I believe, I'm gonna talk to Bart and Eric. I do believe that we do have to provide lunch for the first week because we start a week earlier. So we'll get on that.
Just lunch or breakfast and lunch?
Probably both. Oh, both. We're gonna.
Donald's and pizza. There you go. Not a shit.
When Miss Nirok cooks, it's frozen pizza and nachos, so watch out.
Grilled cheeses are pretty easy.
Yeah,
The fact that you say you're gonna go in there, it's fabulous to me.
I have had to do that before. We did not have two of those once, and it was like, I went to the grocery store and said, I need all of your frozen pizzas, and
Other discussion?
No.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Agenda item H is discuss our August date. So our August board meeting date is set for August 10th. I'm just overview. I have personal conflict. I don't know about anybody else. I don't have to be here. Soren can run a meeting. I didn't know though if we could move it maybe a week forward to August 17th and how that would work for anybody. So if there's a motion, we can just.
When is the
discuss
state school board thing?
11th.
Training?
The 11th, 12th and 13th.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
No.
I think I'm fine with moving it to the 17th.
I'd like to move it to the 17th.
Is that your motion to move it to the 17th?
Yes.
Same time,
Yes.
right?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion, concern? Those in favor? Yes, motion passes unanimously. We'll move our August meeting to August 17th at 7 p.m. That concludes the action items this evening. Key dates, July 17th and 18th, there's the school board training from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Again, that is a work session for the board. The community and patrons are welcome to attend. It will be a virtual, just please note, there's no patron comments involved in those 2 evenings. And then August 11th through the 13th is our OSBA summer conference. Thank you, everybody, and we will adjourn at 20:09.
So we're not here on the 17th and 18th. We're online.